Feminist Theory from Margin to Center by Bell Hooks is a foundational text in feminist thought, providing a critical analysis of feminist theory and its practices. Originally published in 1984, this book continues to be relevant as it challenges mainstream feminism's limitations and advocates for an inclusive, transformative approach to gender equity. Hooks critiques the exclusionary practices of feminism that often ignore the intersection of race, class, and gender, proposing instead a feminism that centers the experiences of marginalized groups. Below is a detailed exploration of the book's themes, arguments, and impact. Historical context and Bell Hooks' vision. Bell Hooks, born Gloria Jean Watkins, is a prominent cultural critic, feminist theorist, and writer who emerged during the latter half of the 20th century. Her work addresses issues of race, class, gender, and oppression. In Feminist Theory from Margin to Center, Hooks critiques the predominance of white middle-class women in feminist movements, which she argues often alienates women of color, working-class women, and other marginalized groups. Hooks seeks to reimagine feminist theory and praxis by shifting the focus from the privileged center to the marginalized periphery. She envisions a feminism that is not merely about achieving gender equality within existing power structures, but about dismantling those structures entirely. Her critique of mainstream feminism's focus on issues like workplace equality and reproductive rights, while neglecting broader systemic inequalities, is a recurring theme in the book. Major themes in the book. 1. Intersectionality and inclusivity. Hooks was one of the early theorists to emphasize intersectionality, the interconnectedness of race, class, and gender. She argues that mainstream feminism often adopts a one-dimensional approach, failing to address how these systems of oppression interact. This exclusionary approach marginalizes women of color, poor women, and others who do not fit the mold of the ideal feminist subject. She contends that true feminist theory must be inclusive, accounting for the diverse experiences of all women. By centering marginalized voices, feminism can better address systemic issues and become a truly revolutionary force. 2. Critique of individualism. Hooks critiques the individualistic focus of mainstream feminism, which she sees as rooted in capitalist values. She argues that many feminist efforts aim to help individual women succeed within existing patriarchal and capitalist systems, rather than challenging these systems outright. This approach reinforces hierarchical power structures and benefits a small group of privileged women, leaving the majority of women unaffected or further marginalized. She calls for a collective approach to feminism that prioritizes community, solidarity, and systemic change. By fostering collaboration and mutual support, feminism can become a transformative movement for all women. 3. Rethinking power and oppression. Another central theme is the critique of how power is conceptualized within feminist discourse. Hooks challenges the notion that women should aspire to the same positions of power as men within patriarchal systems. Instead, she advocates for redefining power itself, moving away from domination and toward collaboration and mutual empowerment. Hooks also examines how internalized sexism and other forms of oppression manifest within feminist movements. She urges feminists to confront these dynamics and work toward building a movement that is free from such contradictions. 4. Role of men in feminism. Hooks takes a nuanced approach to the role of men in feminism, arguing that men must be involved in the movement for it to succeed. She critiques the tendency of some feminists to frame men as the enemy, emphasizing instead the importance of addressing the socialization that perpetuates patriarchal behaviors in both men and women. By inviting men to join the struggle against patriarchy, Hooks envisions a more comprehensive and united feminist movement. She also stresses the need for men to engage in self-reflection and take responsibility for their role in perpetuating gender inequality. Sister 5. The importance of education. Education is a recurring theme in Hooks' work, and in Feminist Theory from Margin to Center, she emphasizes its transformative potential. She argues that feminist education must go beyond academic institutions and reach marginalized communities where it can have the greatest impact. This involves creating accessible, practical resources that empower women to resist oppression and build solidarity. Hooks also critiques the elitism often found in feminist scholarship, which can alienate those outside academia. She calls for a more inclusive approach to feminist education that prioritizes accessibility and relevance. Key arguments and proposals. 1. Broadening feminist agendas. Hooks argues that feminist movements must expand their focus beyond issues that primarily concern privileged women, such as workplace equality and reproductive rights. She highlights the need to address systemic issues like poverty, racism, and violence, which disproportionately affect marginalized women. By doing so, feminism can become a more comprehensive and effective movement. 2. Valuing domestic work. In one of the book's most provocative arguments, Hooks critiques the feminist devaluation of domestic work. She observes that some feminists view traditional roles like caregiving and homemaking as inherently oppressive, which alienates women who find value and identity in these roles. Hooks calls for a re-examination of domestic labor, recognizing its importance and advocating for equitable sharing of these responsibilities between men and women. 3. Challenging cultural norms. Hooks explores the role of culture in perpetuating sexism and other forms of oppression. She critiques media representations of women, particularly those that reinforce stereotypes and uphold patriarchal values. She also examines how cultural norms shape gender roles and argues for a cultural revolution that challenges these norms. 4. Creating a transformative feminism. Ultimately, Hooks advocates for a feminist movement that is both revolutionary and inclusive. She envisions a feminism that not only challenges gender inequality, but also addresses interconnected systems of oppression such as racism and classism. This requires a shift in priorities from individual empowerment to collective liberation. Impact and legacy. Feminist theory from margin to center has had a profound impact on feminist thought and activism. Hooks' emphasis on intersectionality prefigured later developments in feminist theory, such as Kimberlé Crenshaw's formal articulation of the concept. Her critique of individualism and call for a more inclusive, systemic approach to feminism has influenced countless activists and scholars. The book remains a vital resource for understanding the limitations of mainstream feminism and the potential of a more inclusive, transformative approach. Its relevance has only grown in recent decades, as debates about intersectionality, privilege, and systemic oppression continue to shape feminist discourse. Criticisms and challenges. While feminist theory, from margin to center, has been widely praised, it has also faced criticism. Some critics argue that Hooks' critique of mainstream feminism is overly harsh or dismissive. Others question her proposals for engaging men in feminist movements, arguing that this risks diluting the focus on women's liberation. Additionally, Hooks' writing style, while accessible compared to many academic texts, can still be challenging for some readers. Her dense prose and theoretical approach may alienate those seeking more straightforward guidance. Bell Hooks' Feminist Theory, From Margin to Center, is a groundbreaking work that challenges the limitations of mainstream feminism and advocates for a more inclusive, transformative approach. By centering the experiences of marginalized groups, rethinking power and oppression, and emphasizing the importance of education and collective action, Hooks offers a vision of feminism that is both revolutionary and deeply humanistic. The book remains a crucial text for anyone interested in feminist theory and social justice, offering insights that continue to resonate in today's struggles for equity and inclusion. Through her incisive critique and visionary proposals, Hooks invites readers to imagine a feminism that truly works for all women, and by extension, for a more just and equitable society.